Oh, it's good to be back. Bi-weekly webinar with Dr. James, Dr. Mike. How's it going?
I'm doing well, James. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. My dogs are like being very needy because it's like snowing all the time and they fucking lose their minds and they just want to be outside all day and we go out to
Oh,
get them and they're just like icicles. And so then they come in the
oh,
house and they make little lakes around the house everywhere they lay down.
oh,
So it's good. It's good.
wow. They are incredibly white.
Hmm. Yeah. Ham definitely is like camouflaged into the snow. You can only like see her nose and her eyes.
Talk about a hunting advantage.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But you could tell too that they have like a heritage for like us for doing work and like pulling sleds because if there's ever a track in the snow like a game trail or like a tire track or any kind of like little path in the snow, they immediately fall into like a single line and start just going down the track.
Whoa,
It's
cool.
annoying though, because like when you're trying to take them potty, there's like we've driven around the house a couple times in the snow. There's just tire tracks, so they just get into the track and they start like marching, and I'm like, "Go to the bathroom, go potty," and they're like, "No, adventure."
Oh.
So
Well,
they're
our
dorks.
our old English bulldog Gwen is designed for nothing, seemingly, except sleeping in late and making pig noises instead of dog noises.
And
Yep.
consuming.
Consuming and loving. She loves with all her heart.
She's a little tank.
Yeah. She's also unreal jacked for no reason at all. She has like triceps and veins and shit. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, dude.
Like, we didn't get her because she was jacked. We got her because she was a baby.
Oh, who's the baby?
Aww. Speaking of babies, the Donut Man has our first question for today, actually.
A lot of upvotes on this one.
A lot of upvotes.
What
This
kind
is
of
a
replies are
very,
we
very
getting
funny
here?
question. All right. So the Donut Man asks, Doc, Jesus, do they know it's two people on the show?
We all
Who
know.
knows what the
We all know
YouTube
who everyone's coming for.
Yeah, come.
Me.
Agreed. Dr. James Hoffman. Let's say hypothetically I'm home on bail for tax evasion. Are you Wesley Snipes?
That's what I was
And
thinking too.
that's right. And I'm clearly guilty and will be doing jail time in the future. I enjoy training, but can't afford to have well-developed glutes, considering I'll be going to prison. So first of all, it actually is backwards. You want really well-developed glutes so you can crush people's
Clinch.
penises while they're in your asshole. You don't have to do that a few times until people just stop trying to have sex with you. But fine, you want small glutes. I still enjoy training legs, but as a strategy to avoid building well-developed glutes, I've reduced my calories to about maintenance and reduced my protein intake to a very low amount only on leg days. On push and pull, I train and eat normally for muscle growth. Will this result in increased upper body size without developing my legs due to the timing of my nutrient and caloric intake? By a small margin, yes, because post-workout protein for 12 hours after the rest of the day is important, but your muscles grow for several days. Unless you do multiple leg days in a row, you're going to get well fed on those other days. And there has been at least have been a few studies where if you kind of don't eat enough protein for a few meals and then you eat more on the other meals, there is a bit of a compensatory effect. So I don't think this is the best way to go about doing this. What I would say is if you really enjoy training legs, train them in sets of 3 to 6 repetitions. Train mostly quads and hamstrings, no direct glute training. And your glutes should basically not grow hardly at all. And your legs probably won't grow, they'll just get stronger. So just by doing strength training, you can still train them and not have them grow. And plus, it's fun to train heavy because you get to impress everyone at the gym. James?
Unless you're super fast twitch and then your glutes grow even more. Damn it. What have I done?
That would be fucking hilarious.
That would be a really funny and awesome problem to have. Yeah. So just to reiterate what Mike was saying, the effect of timing in that on that scale is relatively small. And because you have muscle growth occurring over several days, like your nutrition on the subsequent days will largely be influencing the results of the training from the previous days. So I don't really think that that level of precision and timing is worth the fuss. I think at that point, if you don't want your legs or your glutes to grow, just don't train your glutes directly. As Mike recommended, you could do strength training, or if you could always just kind of take your leg training down to maintenance volume and just do more upper body training if you want to have a bigger upper body. I I can't tell how much of this is like jokey or maybe the person just doesn't want to have a big butt and is not actually going to prison. I can't tell, but it's pretty funny either way.
Yeah. Yeah. At least we learned something.
I mean, there's a lot going on here. There's this one. We have like tax evasion. We have like nutrient timing considerations and
glue training.
Glue training. That's quite a sandwich.
I'm looking at a recommended video for me on my YouTube here. It says Mark Bell's Power Project, episode 658. Meat creates vitality at any age, featuring Sean Baker and Stan Efferding.
Cool.
I can't think of anything more bro-y than being pro-meat.
Yeah.
Like, fucking meat, brother. Yeah, man, red meat. I fucking love it. Yeah, fucking vegans. Fuck them. Yeah, bro. Yeah, let's touch dicks.
Especially on vitality, that seems like an odd mashup.
Right. Eating meat makes you feel vital, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Who knows?
I like to put carnivore diet people and vegans in the same room and turn on the gas. I'm just kidding. The worst idea ever. All right.
Some of these replies are pretty funny too. Sorry.
That's right. No, the replies are very good. All right. Someone said, you're not going to a pound me in the ass prison. You're going to federal prison. Motherfucker, what do you think a federal prison is? That's the most pound me in the ass prison. Fuck. Don't take prison advice from Keola A. Please. All right. Elad F. asks, hey, docs, should I bother with the more expensive protein powder? You're awesome. Thank you so much. So, I think there's basically 3 types of whey protein: concentrate, isolate, and hydrolysate. That's right. It's a real word. Whey concentrate, if you a little bit lactose intolerant, because it's not pure protein, you might find that it makes you do the squirts. And if you're not remotely intolerant of milk products, you probably will feel great. And the fraction of upsides, downsides, especially because it has a bit more carbs, sometimes a bit more fat. If you balance out those macros for other macros of your day, like concentrates, grandma got big on it, so did mom, it's going to work really well. If you can afford isolate, which nowadays is so ubiquitous, it's not even expensive, isolate does a lot of good stuff for you. It's usually very pure, there's very little fat or carbs, and it's ultra high quality protein. Whey hydrolysate or whey hydro, it's like kind of how James and I talk about when people do athlete monitoring with high tech equipment, they don't know what to do with the data. It's kind of a solution in search of a problem. Whey hydro is theoretically going to be really awesome by like some tenth of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a percentage point. One time, my wife and I went on a very nice vacation together, and I broke open the piggy bank. And because, we went on vacation at an all-inclusive resort, but we're not just going to eat the all-inclusive food. We have to have more protein servings through the day. So I packed only Optimum Nutrition Platinum Whey Hydro. So first of all, here's what you do. You put the Platinum into the shaker, you put water in, you go once, and it just dissolves. And you're like, what the fuck? It's magical. But unfortunately, the research suggests any advantage it gives you is marginal at best and possibly just non-existent. There's also some interesting idea that whey isolate has some protein or amino acid string fractions that are maybe actually translocate faster into your digestive system and are potentially more anabolic and carry their own health benefits. So breaking the whey down even further than that may actually be less advantageous. So I would say is, look at what your expensive protein powder is. If it's got isolate, just try to find a cheaper isolate powder and you're good to go. If it's hydro, it's probably not worth it unless you're made of money and then enjoy. The other thing about price of protein powder is I think of 2 other things that make protein powder expensive. One is it tastes interesting. So like sometimes Crystal, my wife, and I will get the Ghost brand protein powder, which isn't cheap. I think it's very scary because there's a ghost on it. He's like,
it's very spooky. It's very spooky.
But their marshmallow like cereal milk shit is like crack fucking cocaine. It tastes so good that I'm like, fuck it. I'll spend an extra whatever, $5 or whatever, 3 pounds to taste really great. So that's one consideration. If you like good tasting protein, maybe the expensive is justified like that. And a lot of the cheap protein powders Like, I don't want to talk shit, but like, James, you know that like Walmart brand, like 6-star nutrition or some stupid shit like that? Like, I don't even know what the fuck you're getting in that. And it does not taste good. But so expense, it can be justified sometimes by taste. The last thing, and this is the one to really avoid, is just marketing hype. Like, if there's a famous pro bodybuilder on the protein, I probably wouldn't buy it. Now, I know it sounds fucked up. I'm taking money out of pros' pockets, but sometimes it's good protein. A lot of times there's a markup for really snazzy marketing and really like top pros. And listen, you're not getting that pro to dip his balls into that protein. You're not getting any of that shit from it. So I would just say get a basic protein powder that's pretty decent. There's lots of great brands. The one that always comes to mind is Optimum Nutrition. It's the least flashy marketing I've ever seen. They're like, hey, we have protein. We've had it for decades. It's sweet. Gold standard Optimum Nutrition is isolate, and it's fucking great, and it's not expensive, and it tastes amazing, and there's 10 different flavors. It's awesome. James, what you have consumed protein powder over the ages. Tell us about your wisdom.
God, I've had so many horrible protein experiences. You know what this made me think of? Like Whey Hydro is for, who was that RP Plus member who lived in the Zeppelin and carried a giant Ethernet cord everywhere?
Fuck, I forget his name. There was
I can't remember the name. It was an old ongoing joke. Yeah, it's definitely like the fancy pants protein.
Sorry, James, can I expand that joke for the rest of the folks to check in?
Sure.
So there's a gentleman on the old RP Plus group, which is now YouTube. I forget what his name was, but he was South American, and he had the most fancy name ever. And it reminded me of like Francisco d'Anconia from Atlas Shrugged, Ayn Rand, like a mega trillionaire, basically, who was just like so from money that he could do insane things. So he made up this whole idea that he only travels by dirigible, that the dirigible is coal powered and made of uranium to doubly make it difficult to lift and also pollute the world more, because he's that level of giving a fuck is just minimal. And also he prefers to have fast internet. So the dirigible, no matter where it is, drags an Ethernet cord behind it to stay physically plugged into the internet. That man, as James is intimating, would absolutely have a bathtub of platinum Whey Hydro awaiting his every post workout.
It's gonna bother me the rest of this episode that I can't remember that name. I'm gonna be distracted the entire time.
We'll have to think about it.
Yeah. So there's plenty of protein products out there. Most of them, like the difference between them is so insignificant. I would say first start with like just like your kind of budgetary restrictions. Like if you don't have a lot of money to spend on supplements, which you frankly shouldn't be spending a ton of money on supplements anyway, outside of personal preference. There's plenty of like just Vitamin Shop brand kind of stuff that's totally fine. I like Optimum. That's the one I use the most. If you want to upgrade, you can get the gold standard. And fun fact, I think Costco actually has, I think that's the isolate that they sell in the big 5-pound bag, and like 2 or 3 times a year, it's like $15 off. So so I usually, and I think the limit is like 5 or 6 per customer. So I usually just grab a whole bunch of them, and that lasts me, for the rest of the year. So you get it for a really good price.
Homeless guys are like, you guys want to make $20? They're like, sure, like come with me to the store.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think Amazon occasionally will run Optimum deals, and so you can get it for a really good price there. But outside of that, it's like concentrate's fine. If you want to if you have like GI distress, or you just want like the slightly better product, isolate's great. And then from that, it's kind of just whatever you want to do from that point on. There's not really a strong justification for going up to that next level, unless you're dirigible man and you just want to flaunt your wealth and pour it all over the plebes down below.
Yes, he pours platinum Whey over like the New York skyline when he's above New York City. Enjoy, you pathetic scum. A very distinct South American accent.
Now, if we want to talk about beef protein, carnivore is the way to go. I mean, that's really the kind of the elephant in the room here, is that you really should think about
a cow in the room.
Yeah, cow in the room.
Myself and James and Dr. Melissa Davis, we were in London one year for the Steve Hall Revive Stronger seminar. And James bites into this protein bar he got like in transit. And he was like, oh my God, Mike, you have to taste this. And I was like, is it good? He's like, it's interesting. And I was like, God, that's a bad sign. And I was like, what is it? He's like, it's beef protein. And then so it was a chocolate protein bar. And I tried it. I chewed and swallowed. And then it tastes normal. It tastes like chocolate. and then you have the aftertaste of blood.
Wash of beefy bloodiness
What
afterwards.
the fuck is this? Is off vampires would eat this bar. I was like, holy shit. It's just a bit much.
The experience was like, it's like such a hilarious like taste experience. If you ever see a carnivore like protein product, just buy one for the shits and giggles. I sent my friend Steve a care package, and I sent him like a big tub of the carnivore.
No, Steve doesn't even lift. This is the funniest part.
He's been lifting lately. So
all right, okay, all right. Welcome.
He wanted some protein powder, and I gave him the beef one, and he was just like, "What the fuck is this? What have you sent me? I can't mix this with anything. I can't make a smoothie with it. It's just beef."
To quote Morpheus from The Matrix, it's something you have to experience. You cannot be told about it.
Oh, so very nice tie.
Get out there, buy the carnivore shit, and sorry in advance. All right. Robert Burnside asks, "Hi, docs. Just one question here." Well, thanks, Robert, for letting us know there were not more questions. I'm just kidding. We have to fuck with you guys. Is it true that building a pound of muscle leads to a significant increase in your basal metabolic rate? According to some studies, it's just a myth. Personally, I found that it's easier to stay lean as I've gotten bigger. Is the building of muscle itself that increases BMR, or simply the maintenance of that mass? So on the net balance, neither. Calorie burning is only very minimally related to muscle mass. But if you are like hypermuscular at the same body weight versus hyper fat at the same body weight, you might see up to a 10% increase in how many calories you burn. I think it's 10%. Like if you have 4,000 calories and then 4,400 calories, you're not exactly like, it's really hard to tell even, it's not a huge difference. So don't go thinking like if you weigh 150 pounds and you're kind of skinny fat and you like love to eat food, well, man, once I'm 150 lean, I'll eat anything and burn the fuck through it. It just doesn't happen, unfortunately. However, people with a high muscularity tend statistically to be more active. And when they lift weights and do other things, their muscles produce shitload of forces and work and burn a crap load more calories. One of the trippy things about fat people, I use that term with all due congeniality, I suppose, they can't work out very hard. Like in the literal sense of just like tiny skinny people inside a fat person's body, they just can't burn a lot of calories. They gas out really quick. You try burning a lot of calories if you have like 400 pounds of fucking just shit strapped to you, like it blows. So how do you burn a lot of calories? You got to get your move on and, be a little light on your feet. If you're muscular, you can be really light on your feet while having a crap load of body mass on you. And that way you can get a shitload of work done and burn a ton of calories. So no, it's not direct in any, muscle burns more fat sitting around than fat tissue, but it's by a small margin, but it's the activity and the huge volumes of training you can handle that really reflect themselves like that. James?
Yeah, and just to kind of hit the point more explicitly, RMR, BMR is associated with like increases in lean body mass, but we're talking about like big changes over time. So if we're talking about like a pound, that's a drop in the bucket.
You won't even tell.
You won't even tell. But we're talking about like somebody who has gained a substantial amount of lean body mass over, years and years and years. Yes, that might actually lead to a measurable difference in things like RMR, BMR, depending on how you measure them. So you will see, like if you open a textbook, you'll see that those things are, associated together, but just keep in mind the scale and timeline. So building muscle is not something that happens quickly, and you need to have a big change in muscle mass for it to really have a big effect.
Yeah, and like you said earlier, a notable effect, a measurable effect. That doesn't mean it's a big effect. It's just notable. Yeah. Like I did it, finally I can tell, but it's a small effect. So I wouldn't go gambling on it.
Yeah. And I mean, and then staying lean is still a matter of like the same stuff, just now you're heavier later on.
Yes. All right. Next up is Ashton Buckzock.
I wouldn't have even known how to attack that one.
I probably got it wrong. These not quite Russian, Eastern European names are often backwards. Logic, who the fuck knows how you say them? I wonder how they say it. Bajak.
I would have gone like Bajak or something.
Bajak, yeah, maybe. Fuck, dude. The thing is, they either need their own alphabet to say the shit properly, or I don't know how to read the shit in the Roman alphabet or whatever.
Bacharach.
Hey, Ashton. It reminds me of Ashton Kutcher. No offense to you, Ashton, but damn, you could have had a better fucking name than that. You feel me?
Yeah, it's a pretty solid name.
Like Ashton's the guy.
It's a Hollywood name.
It's a Hollywood name. Ashton is the guy. Ashton, no offense. Like if you're like 16 and you're like from a different school and you were a badass wrestler there and nobody knows about you at this new school. And like the first guy to make fun of you at lunch is like the popular kid. And he's like, it's Ashton. Get to know that name. You're like, God damn it. I can't wait to punch you in the fucking face.
Yeah.
Beat up all your friends too. What the hell is wrong with me? Ashton, I take that back. You have a fucking sweet name. I'm pathetic. Please don't be angry at me. James, Crystal and I are making our way through Cobra Kai.
Oh yeah, the
Netflix
one. Mm-hmm. Any good?
It's fine. It's a great show. The thing is, karate just doesn't work, so
I can't like take it seriously. Yeah, I can't.
It's so hard. I'm like, one kid who's a blue belt in jiu-jitsu would go to your school and fucking murk all of you fucks.
Yeah.
He'd be beating one of you with another person's detached limb by now. God damn it.
Or some like Nate Diaz incel fan from Stockton. That's all right. You need.
You don't even untrained have to have a person from Stockton, California, lineage of alcoholism and drug abuse. Too tough to know any better.
I have a hard time with like a lot of the reboots because that's like a thing lately where it's like all these old things are being rebooted. So I'm just like,
did you hate this in the 80s? Yeah. Well, then you'll hate it now.
Kind of right. Exactly. I'm like, yeah, Karate Kid was fine, but like I'm over Karate Kid. And then any of the martial arts ones, I'm just like, dude, I just can't I can't. It's just such nonsense.
Martial arts movies today about non-MMA martial arts, about traditional martial arts, are similar to like watching James Bond like racing cars back in the 60s, where he's like, and he's got like a scarf, and you're like, man, that's not modern motorsport. Come on, man.
He hits the button and like the smoke comes out and everyone's like, oh.
Like what is this even? And you can tell it was filmed at 15 miles an hour. Like, this is just dated. So.
Yeah, I struggle with it because I can't like unsee the McDojo life type stuff too, where you're just like, ugh, this is so
dumb. Oh yeah. All right. Ashton asks, what it do, docs? What's up, Paul Wall?
What it do?
I'm into cold showers and ice baths. Oh, fucker, this isn't a dating site. For benefits other than recovery. Well, like I said, it's not a dating site. Jesus Christ, man. Like feeling better afterwards because of how much they suck. Okay, that makes sense. Again, that's S&M, but there's a term for that. I understand that they decrease muscle growth, but I'd like to understand the scale of the detriment better. Well, it's a very well-constructed sentence. To be able to decide if the trade-off is worth it. I love our followers. This guy's smart as fuck. Or if I need to find a different source of pain. Like I said, you're into S&M, Ashton. It's still really cool. I'm into it too. It's great. To minimize negative effects, I don't take them near my workouts. Thank you both. James is the expert. I'll let him speak in just a second, really put the kibosh. I think if you don't do it within like 3 hours after you've finished working out, I think the effects are just non-existent as far as hypertrophy shutdown. What you don't want to do is like within the 3 hours after a workout. Before a workout would be insane because you'd just be really cold and stiff and shitty at your workout. James, what do you think?
Yeah, you nailed it from the hypertrophy perspective. There's kind of a time series thing where if you do it right after your workout, then you're going to see some of those negative side effects. If you do it kind of like 3 hours plus, it doesn't seem to have as much of an effect from a hypertrophy perspective. If you do decide to do it closer than that timeline, the effect is relatively small. What we like to tell people about these kind of trade-offs with recovery strategies, especially like the ice type ones, is kind of a death by bee stings problem where it's not really shaving off very much of your gains at all. The problem is just the repetitive use starts to accrue lots of little shave offs over time. So over the course of, a year, if you do it every single time, is that a huge deal? Like, are you going to see a huge difference in the time course of a year? Like, probably not. What about over 10 years? Like now we actually can say like, well, you've been doing it consistently. It's giving you just like a little bit of a trade-off each time. And over the course of something like 10 years, that might mean the difference between you being a professional and not, right? That's the reality. Or you stepping on stage in a competition in first place or just not placing at all. That's the problem that you can run into. So we don't want to scare people and say like, don't do it. You won't grow any muscle. That's not the truth at all. Will you potentially grow slightly less muscle if you do this consistently after your workouts? Yes, but it's a very small amount, and the effects are more pronounced when you do it over time rather than acutely.
Very cool. All right. You can still shower when cold or put, whatever 9-volt battery in your nuts. Whatever gets the job done.
I was thinking about battery on the nips. That's where I was going to go.
Yeah, where it all leads anyway. Next up is, holy shit,
Oh,
Giannis,
Zawad.
I would say it's Pravada. Pravada is probably how I'd say it in Russian is probably wrong. But imagine if, James, you're American. Read that.
Jannies. Frizzywera.
Frizzaware, man.
Frizzawera. Hey, Jannies.
That's a local Montana name right there. All right. He says, Dear docs, are horizontal pulling exercises for overall back development needed if I do deadlifts and rack pulls, which hit the traps? If not, what parts of the back are filled out with vertical pulls that can't be developed with horizontal pulls?
Did he flip-flop there?
And deadlift. What I think he meant to say, what parts of the back are filled out with horizontal pulls that can't be developed with deadlifts and rack pulls? I think that's the structure of the question.
Yeah.
So my take is you'll get 90% of your back gains, not in the best stimulus to fatigue ratio possible, but you'll still get the raw gains will be very high from doing deadlifts and rack pulls plus vertical pulling. I will say that there are some concentric and dynamic motions missing from the mid traps, the rhomboids, teres, etc. And I would do rows for those, but it might be a thing where you do all of your deadlifts, you do all of your rack pulls, you do like 3 sets of rows every 3 days, and then you do the rest vertical pulling and you're totally fine. So you don't have to do row after row after row. Even 2 good sets of rows, I think, might take care of it. So it's not much, but yeah, there's probably want some dynamic movement that's rowing based, horizontal based, in addition to rack pulls, deadlifts, and vertical pulling.
Yeah, I think that, like Mike said, it can get you most of the way there, but at some point, if you're wanting to build up your back more, you're going to run into the problem that you just can't do you can't do enough deadlifts to actually hit the areas that you're trying to target more, right? And at that point, you might actually consider switching to doing a little bit more rowing or more specialized back movements. Like I think like up to kind of like the late intermediate level, yeah, deadlifts will get you plenty far. But then at some point, if you want to develop that kind of those big scapular retractors, you're probably going to have to do more specialized training. That's kind of the answer to a lot of questions, right? Like, how long can I get away with doing this? Well, until you need to do more specialized training.
Like, yeah, right, yeah, for a while until someone's like, hey, your legs need to be bigger, and you're like, I agree, and you're like, but I can't squat anymore. I'm too tired. You're like, okay, have you tried leg press? And you're like, ah, shit, I knew it was getting to that.
Yeah, and like with deadlifts and rack pulls in particular, like the systemic effects of fatigue from those movements are, I mean, just brutal. So and you might find that you got a lot of growth from doing those movements, but you get even more growth when you take them out and can do more specialized training for other muscle groups. But that's like a time series thing too. So like, again, you can get away with it for a while until you can't. And then you got to switch.
Yep. James, can I ask you a question about your YouTube recommendations? Most of these make sense to me.
Oh boy. I'm not okay. So full disclosure, I'm not like a YouTube person. Like I don't sit on YouTube and scroll through videos all the time. I'm usually like, I'll go on YouTube to find something specific. Like, hey, I need someone to show me how to do this thing in Excel, or I need someone to show me how to change the light on my Jeep. So mine's always like a shit show hodgepodge. It's like mostly RP and MMA and then weird shit. Hit me. Give me what you got.
Anna Vidovich, full concert classical guitar.
I have no idea who this person is.
Because you were like into guitar or are into guitar. So.
I'm wondering if like she was like a musician on a song or something that I listened to, and then
there you go.
But I have no idea. Yeah. I like the suplex one.
Yo, yeah, that's fucking sweet. Is that Michael Chandler suplexing Benson Henderson?
Mm-hmm.
Benson Henderson is the fucking man. I loved him as a fighter, and then other people just got better.
Yeah, he's kind of was in that transitional from the old guard to the new guard group. But he's doing a lot of grappling stuff lately. I've been seeing him showing up on the grappling circuit more and more.
He's like so athletic.
I know, he's got that crazy hair.
Yes. All right, scroll down a bit, James. Yeah. All right. Jake Farina. We're not the Shake Daddy has a question that unfortunately applies to very few people, so we're gonna skip that. All right. Jake Farina says, I just watched your lecture on damage and growth and was wondering about how cold therapy like ice baths, cold showers, and icing muscles post-workout impacts.
2 in the same one. My God.
Yeah. I figured we beat it to death. Impacts growth and damage, and what exactly means for the damage growth relation. Since we've seen that these actions decrease muscle soreness, but also decrease muscle growth, that would mean that soreness and growth are not just a correlation? Or do you think that your video still holds true? It's possible that whichever effects the cold therapy has on muscles that reduce soreness just also happens to reduce hypertrophy? Because if that's not the case, then something like an ice bath would reduce soreness and in turn potentially damage, which would theoretically increase growth since more resources wouldn't need to be allocated to repair. I was just thinking about it and wanted to hear your thoughts on the matter. Thanks. Yeah, it's a good question. I would say that what the workouts or what the cold ice baths and showers and stuff are doing is shutting down the inflammatory process. We're reducing it. Yep. And the inflammatory process that is triggered by hard training, and to some extent probably triggered by direct muscle damage as well, is triggering what's called secondary muscle damage, when the immune system comes into the muscle, literally unzips the muscle cell, starts fucking around with it. And that's a big part of the growth process. So training really hard gets that inflammation going. Potentially damage does directly as well. And thus there may be some relation for damage and growth, but it's that secondary damage that we really want. And that secondary damage is not caused by the damage in training. It is caused by the infiltration of the immune system via the inflammatory signaling pathways. So if you turn those down, you get less infiltration, less adaptation, and thus less muscle growth. So I'd say there is a relation there, but it's all mediated, or mostly probably mediated through the inflammatory effects. The inflammatory effects can occur through metabolite alterations. They can probably occur directly through tension as well. And they may occur through muscle damage, maybe to a point. But remember that the muscle damage that we see, that ones that gives you delayed onset soreness, that's not initial muscle damage. That's secondary damage caused by that very inflammation, and probably to a large point, a large degree, a very good thing. So yeah, we would have to have more evidence to show that, okay, actually just damaging the muscle without tension, without metabolites, structural damage to the muscle can signal growth. We don't have that kind of data yet, nothing very convincing anyway. That's how we would have to say, okay, actually damage itself is causing you. So it's a ruling out problem. But that's that primary damage. The idea of primary damage can cause muscle growth. But the idea that secondary damage causes muscle growth is quite not irrefutable, but it's quite well supported, especially by studies on things like anti-inflammatory drugs, cold and heat, exposure right after training, which reduce that inflammation, reduce that secondary damage, and thus reduce growth. So now, does that inflammation grow via initiating secondary damage? Maybe not, but whatever that inflammation does is critical to the growth process. And if you shut that down, you get neither the secondary damage or much less of it, nor do you get much of the growth. James?
Yeah, I mean, so the damage one is kind of an interesting thing too, because you could also just like hit your body with like a meat tenderizer.
They've done that study; it didn't cause growth.
Yeah,
or dead serious.
Yeah. So what the physical damage often does is stimulate like protein synthesis from the standpoint of recovering the damaged tissue, right? But not necessarily like a muscle growth stimulus. And sometimes those things are important to differentiate. So recovery and growth, like in the case of damage, might be kind of certainly two different pathways, but might be serving two different masters in that case, right? Where you might actually see increases in protein synthesis from physical damage to the muscle, but that's not actually like growth promoting. It's actually just recovering whatever structural damage was occurred on the tissue. So it is an interesting topic. I think it's very hard to piece those things out at the current time, but I'm sure maybe in like 10 or 20 years, we'll be able to figure this out.
All right. Next up is Michael Horton, who selfishly asks two questions.
What?
Question number one. You son of a bitch. At what point would you say lifestyle impacts deload/active recovery? For example, I just took a 12-day no gym time while I was on a ski trip. Even though I was able to give my body a break from the gym, I still imagine I put a lot of stress on my body, notably lower body. During those ski days, I would put myself in the expert category for skiers, as I generally ski very aggressive in challenging terrain, which requires a lot of exertion on the body. Other ways to mitigate this while still enjoying your hobbies? Well, yeah, just do less of your hobbies and make them less physical. So I'll tell you what, yesterday I went to jiu-jitsu and I got my fucking ass kicked, and I couldn't try all that hard because trying hard would mean engaging my musculature to a higher percent of it run at max, and it would lead to an injury risk and increase my fatigue level. So I basically had to just do a lot of flow and technique, which is good for my training, but terrible for my ego. And I'll be heading to jiu-jitsu in a few hours to get the same thing done to me, and it blows. And I wish it wasn't the case. I wish I could go all out and really use my skills, but I can't do that because it's a fucking trade-off. Same way here is like, so for example, let's say you were very serious about increasing your lower body strength and size. Skiing for a whole week, knees and ankles and quads, you wouldn't come back fatigue recovered from your lower body. You would come back fucked up, and you'd probably have to take another deload. So I would say the mitigation is enjoying your hobbies. First of all, trying to enjoy hobbies that are not as physical. If this physical shit in the gym is really important to you. Another one is maybe enjoying some physical hobbies early in the trip, and then later in the trip, enjoy less physical hobbies, like having really lazy sex, possibly with just your hand. Shit like that. Play some arcade games. I don't know what people do on vacation. I've never taken one. So basically, you have to just sort of dial it down at least part of the trip or the whole trip. And the other alternative is just to go ham on your hobbies and take a deload week after the vacation. You're going to have to be easy somehow or sometime. There's no free lunch there. James, any thoughts on that first question?
Yeah, I mean, you basically nailed it, but it's like if skiing or whatever activity that you're doing causes like your legs to not be recovered, can you say that was a successful deload week and you're ready to recover? No. It's as simple as that, right? And that's okay.
Yeah.
You can just plan it like Mike said. You can either do less of it, or what I would do is if you, like a ski trip's definitely like a involved thing. You probably had to buy flights and get hotels and all those things, and you want to look forward to it and you want to enjoy it. So what I would say is like plan 2 weeks for that deload or that active recovery phase and enjoy a week of skiing, and then have like a little bit of a down week afterwards before you get back to hard training, and you're good to go. The bummer there is that like the systemic effect of skiing is not that hard. I've skied and snowboarded, so I'm there with you. It's very localized in the legs and the lower body. And your upper body's probably cooled off and ready to go. So you're probably feeling like I mostly feel good, but just like my knees and my ankles or my quads or my calves are just really not ready to go yet. And that's okay. It's just a local problem on your lower body, but there's no way around it. You still need that recovery time if you want to get back to hard training. So I would plan an extra week for just recovery and enjoy your trip.
And then we'll take number 2 for Michael Horton. He said, as someone who also got COVID, which resulted in 2 days of puking, followed by a week plus of no appetite that resulted in weight loss, which I imagine a fair amount would be water. What steps do you recommend to get back to baseline in both the gym and diet? Would it be best to hammer with food extra to regain lost weight? No. Would it be better to still follow the typical guidelines of gaining 0.25 to 2.5% a week? Yes. Also for training, I imagine it would be best to have 1 to 2 weeks of relatively easier training to reacclimate your body to the stress while you regain strength and muscle. Michael, you answered your own questions.
Well, also, right, so he said 2 days of puking, followed by a week of no appetite. So let's just round up and say you had like 2 weeks of suboptimal, diet. And
I don't even know if he trained during that time. I imagine he didn't.
Yeah, so I mean, I would just treat that like you would treat like a little extended time off. I wouldn't really fuck with like trying to calculate weights of regain or anything like that. I would just go back to doing what you were doing, maybe scale back your training a little bit just so that you can ease into your normal routine. But in terms of diet stuff, I would just go back to doing what you're doing. And within the next 2 weeks, you'll be at the same weight that you were before, almost.
Yes.
Certainly.
And even if you're not at the same weight, let's say you lost some combination of fat and muscle, you're going to regain the muscle really quick. And if you haven't regained the fat, then you'll just be leaner, which is sweet.
If you were sick and out of commission for like a month, then maybe it's a slightly different story. But just like 1 or 2 weeks, it's like, no, you'll bounce back. Just do what you were doing, and you almost certainly will bounce back in a very short amount of time.
All right,
you can't. Sorry, belabor, but it's like can't.
No.
It's such a short amount of time. You can't have lost that much aside from just like some temporary shifts, right? Like 2 weeks, you'd have a really hard time selling me on the fact that anybody would lose a substantial amount of muscle mass unless they were just not eating at all and totally bedridden in the course of 2 weeks. And even if they did, I mean, they would regain it back very quickly either way. So it's like, don't stress.
All right. Zenith.
I used to have a Zenith TV.
TVs.
Back in the day.
I watched your video on time under tension. There was a specific claim that I didn't see addressed. Suppose a person usually does 15 push-ups at roughly 2 reps in reserve. There is a TUT claim that there is no difference doing 5 reps or 15 reps as long as the set took the same amount of time with the same weight. I assume this is false, but I'm curious what the nuances are. Obviously, it's much harder to track 5 slow reps in RIR when you can always change the time unless you're using a metronome. But assuming you took the set to failure and over time increased the weight, would you still make gains just suboptimally? Sorry for the long question. Just wanted to be thorough. Thanks for your time, Swell Docs. Well, Zenith, there's folks asking way long questions on here, so you did just fine. So the general rule is if your repetition, concentric, isometric plus eccentric, takes no longer than about 9 seconds total, the hypertrophy result is roughly the same between any reps that last between 1 second in length and 9 seconds in length. So you can train pretty fucking slow. And so, for example, let's say it's 15 push-ups, right? And you slow it down a lot so that it's 5. That is a lot of tension being put into the muscles and will probably result in this roughly the same hypertrophy. So that is absolutely a true claim of time under tension. The real question comes back to why in God's name would you do that? Who the fuck wants to train with a fucking metronome?
Oh, you beat me to it. Damn it. I was going to be
All
like,
right.
get that fucking
That's all I had
metronome
to
out
say.
of here.
James, please finish up.
No, that's the one I was just like, if I come into the gym and I see you with that goddamn metronome, I'm going to come
step
up in
on
there
it.
and slap it. Get that goddamn metronome out of here. What the fuck are you doing? Are we playing music or are we lifting? Let's get to training. What are you doing? Yeah. I mean, at this point too, it's like, this is kind of like more of a like theoretical issue. I would say like, I'm trying to say this in a nice way, but it's like, don't put this much thought into the cadence where you're thinking about like doing something that you could have done for 15 reps under, kind of normal conditions, and then making it so ridiculous that you're going down to 5 reps. It's just, to me, that's like, again, why is that fucking metronome in here? What are you doing? Get busy, get to work. If you can do regular push-ups, and that's fine. I understand the question, just from like a theoretical perspective, but then it gets into like a practical, like kind of like, what the fuck are you doing? Sorry, I'm not trying to be mean, but it's like, yeah, what are you doing? What are you doing? Get in there and do those push-ups. You don't have to think about it that much.
100%. And so Zena, to answer your question, that actually is a valid way to train. It's just real world, a little bit complicated. So if you're like injured, you can't move weight quickly, you can slow it down and benefit greatly.
Or like, what if you get a cramp? Now what?
Andrew Atkinson, our longtime upvoted OG, says, "Hi docs, do we have to do cardio to be healthy? Cardio is an actual running, cycling, or whatever activity to get the heart rate into the cardio zone. Currently, my only training is lifting, and I also get at least 10K steps per day, sometimes more. I used to play football/soccer a couple of times a week, but since COVID hit, basically haven't done this. My question is, am I missing out on some health benefits of cardio, even if I can get the results I want without it? Thank you, doc." So I would say there's a marginal, very small health benefit of doing pretty hard cardio 2 to 4 times per week for 15 to 30 minutes or more at a time. But that if you do high rep lifting, a lot of it, and if you have high number of steps per day, you're getting like 90 or 95% of that health benefit anyway. If you're optimal health, yes, I would include some hard cardio, but it's a very small fraction. So you're very, very healthy the way you are now.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't have to do cardio to be healthy. There's definitely advantages of doing. I mean, if there's one thing that's been beaten to death in exercise science literature, it's like the various health promoting effects of cardiovascular exercise. My God, there's innumerable amounts. But I think really the way you could rephrase this is like, do you need to move to be healthy? The answer is yes. What's more important is moving around and not just being like a lazy fat slob. So I think what they've actually shown pretty clearly, if you look at the kind of the dose response curve in terms of doing more cardio and like the resulting health benefits you get, most of it occurs, we're saying like 80% of the benefits occur from being like completely inactive to being a regular exerciser, right? And that might just be like doing, cardio 2 to 3 or 4 times per week, depending on which studies that you're looking at. But it basically is like going from someone who is completely stagnant and doesn't move around to just doing regular cardiovascular exercise a couple times per week. You're getting a humongous chunk of the potential health benefits right there. Now, there's another like 20% or so of additional benefits that you could pursue, but at that point, you have to actually start doing harder cardio, whether that's, in more endurance-y or more interval or more high intensity interval. That's kind of up to you. But you absolutely don't have to do it. There are some unique benefits of doing steady state cardio and of doing high intensity cardio, respectively, but you don't have to. I think maintaining a healthy body weight and just moving around is probably the bigger issue at hand. You just can't be Jabba, right? That's really what Jabba can't move.
How dare you?
He just can't move around that well.
All right. Next up, last for today is Linster. He says, hey, docs. Sorry. I've recently started doing the RP style of long-term fat loss dieting, maintenance breaks that are 60% to 150% of the fat loss phase and duration. Now my question is the following. Would it be smart to eat in a small surplus during the maintenance phase? The idea is that for the cost of 2 to 3 pounds of fat regain, you could get 1 or 2 really hypertrophic mesos in and possibly reduce diet fatigue faster. So first of all, yes, you would gain a lot more muscle doing this, and you absolutely would reduce more diet fatigue. The reason we usually program it for, usually we don't recommend it for people that want long-term high degree of fat loss is twofold. One, most of those people are not exactly interested in being gigantic muscle people. So they wouldn't, slow surplus for them would be like something you had to tell them why they were doing it. And they would still be like, really? Okay. All right, fine. But can I just not gain weight? And that kind of leads into the second part. Psychologically, people who have been very fat and need a multi-phase approach often really uninterested in gaining weight in yes. their maintenance phase. And even more concerningly, because you can, if you're a good coach, you can talk people into doing all kinds of stuff like that. The bigger concern is sometimes when people start to gain weight, they have this idea of you know what, fuck it. I'm going back up, and they careen up and out of control. That's not always the case, but maintenance is just a lot easier to sell to a lot of people. And it does check all the boxes they're interested in. But if you happen to be in the camp of you just want to get some pretty decent muscle by the time you get down on body fat, then I think this slow gains between diets is a great thing. I think it's totally possible. It's got all kinds of benefits that you got to pull it off properly, actually gain very little weight, which is very difficult for many people to pull off. James?
Yeah, so I agree with Mike in terms of it's definitely feasible and potentially useful, but just from a practical standpoint, I find it better in my coaching experience to kind of keep your eyes on the prize of whatever the kind of the grandiose goal is, right? So if you're trying to lose weight, I think sometimes teasing the idea of do you want to eat a little bit more now and maybe gain some muscle? It's a bit of a distraction for most people, where really what I would want to funnel people who's doing a long-term weight loss is let's get you to lose the weight effectively, and then let's recuperate and give you some time off. So take your mind off of it, take the physical stressors off of it, and get your mind right again so that we can go back and continue if we need to do that. I feel kind of this idea of you can kind of do these little in between. It's not quite a true muscle gain phase, but it's not really a true maintenance phase either. To me, it's one of those, it's a distraction in that there's not a clearly outlined goal. And then people are going to see their weight creeping up. Like Mike said, most people who are doing long-term weight loss, you can tell people till you're blue in the face that switching from cut to maintenance, there's some normal rebound weight gain that's going to occur. Most of it's just water because you're depleted and you're filling back up again. They still panic every fucking time. Why have I gained 5 pounds? Because you were depleted before. Now you're filling back up again. It doesn't matter. And then you add a few more pounds on top of that. That's clearly going to be tissue weight. It's a tough sell for a lot of people in practical terms. So whereas if you say hey, we're really focused on getting this weight down to a point that you feel good about where you're at, and then the gain train is coming, and it gives them something to look forward to, where it's I've been doing this fucking weight loss for so long. I'm so sick of this. And now I get the prize. And we're going to do fucking a nice long block of hypertrophy training, gain some muscle. And I think that's an easier practical sell because it allows that person to get into the long-term mindset of like, this is what I'm doing for a while. It's kind of like when, I don't want to say it's the same, but it's kind of like having cheat meals where it's like, yeah, you can have cheat meals when you're on a diet, but really all that does is makes you want more cheat meals instead of just being focused on what you're doing, which I think would be like my practical input on that would be like, it's definitely doable. And if you're somebody who can detach some of those emotional roller coaster along with the weight, that's great. I think for most people, get her done and then move on to muscle gain if you want to do that later. But trying to split the difference can be difficult.
Yeah. It can also be a little bit demoralizing to people who really want to prioritize their weight loss. You know, they lost, let's say, from 200 to 185, and their mass takes them to like bloated 193, which means a 189 when they restart the diet. Gee, seeing that 193 5 months after you started the journey, you're like, I've only lost 7 fucking pounds, and this is bullshit. And it can be pretty disheartening. Whereas the same person who chose to just continue to maintain after 5 months would still be 185, 184. And then they'd be like, wow, this is great. And I'm having an easy time keeping it off. And then when they restart their next fat loss diet, they don't have to start from 190. They start from 185. And those head starts, 5 pounds here, 5 pounds there, they add up. You reach your long-term goal faster. So the question is, how good are you? How panicked are you to want to lose the weight ASAP? And how much interest do you have in becoming pretty muscular at the end of that process or through that process? I'll tell you, like a lot of people, they just want to lose the weight. And for them, I think maintenance is probably the right answer. And for you, the sort of slow masses between are good. I've done that before. It worked very well for me. But it sure took a long time to lose the weight. Thing is, I wasn't interested in weight loss, just fat loss, so it didn't bother me a bit. But if you're really interested in long-term weight loss to a significant extent, yeah, you might want to err on the side of just maintaining.
And then there's also something to be said too of like if you're doing the slow gains thing, and it's maybe only for a meso or two, it's like, are you even gaining that much muscle? Is it even worth it? And so one of the problems you'll run into is somebody, like you said, you get them up to a bloated 193 using that same example. And it's like, they kind of look at themselves and they're like, was it worth it? Did I gain that much muscle? I don't really know. Because you're still heavy, right, at that point. There's still more weight to go. So it's, again, like I definitely think somebody like Mike can pull that off. I think a lot of people would have a hard time. And then you'd be like, no, you definitely gained muscle. And they're looking at themselves in the mirror and they're like, did I? And now I'm just fat again. So I think that might be one of those where you make that decision on an individual basis with the people that you're working with.
James, that's all we got, man.
Woo! All right. That was good. Had some good questions. A lot of the ice stuff came back, made a resurgence.
And I watched Chris and I watching a documentary about Manchester City soccer team, which has a few athletes on it making like over $20 million a year.
Yeah,
like,
dude, professional soccer is crazy.
Unreal. And they had this whole cryo chamber, they did it all the time. I really hope they're not doing this right after training.
Yeah. I mean, so like food for thought, folks, like we spend enough time bashing the kind of cryo ice stuff, but like soccer is a great example of when it might be useful. Let's say you have 3 matches, maybe not in the professionals, but like in the semi-pros or college level, you might actually have several matches in a week and you have to perform well in subsequent matches after the first one, right? That's actually a really good application of that. It will help you recover a little bit faster so that your performance will be stable across multiple stressful matches. But doing it like during your off season when you're trying to gain strength and muscle or explosiveness, probably not a good idea. Dr. Mike, any housekeeping, RP or full ROM or Dr. Mike or YouTube related? What do you got?
Yeah, if you guys want programs and all the AMAs you can stand, join us on Team Full ROM. Just go to Instagram or click the link in the description below this, and then pay us money and you'll be in Team Full ROM, no problem. You get cool shirts. But other than that, no, lots of plenty of exciting stuff coming up, but nothing you can speak about quite yet.
I have like a big deadline for an RP project coming up at the end of the month here, and I don't know if I can talk about it yet, but I think it's going to be pretty cool later
Exciting.
on. Yeah, so hopefully I'll be able to speak on it more and more. I'll ask Mike and Papa Nick off screen about how we want to deal with those kind of announcements. But for now, it's a secret, so mind your own fucking business. Just kidding. That's all I got. I got big things in the work. They're coming up, but I gotta zip it for now.
The lip. All right.
All right, folks, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate your questions. We appreciate all the upvoting and you guys playing into our little Q&A system here. Thanks again for your participation, and we'll see you next time.